Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. You are tuning in to Chat with Chaps and a new episode this week called Midweek Mayhem. We definitely didn't just make that up 5 seconds before we came on air, where I think there's just a lot to talk about. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to break up the week as there is no midweek game by talking about all of the happenings in and around the Den at the minute. And to do that, I've got my good friend, Mr. Ben Green, to join me today. How you doing, Ben?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yes, mate. Yeah. I'd be happier we're recording this on a Tuesday. I'd have been happier if we had a sign-in to talk about, but here we are. That's part of what we're going to get into, isn't it, mate?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I think we're all kind of in the same boat at the minute, aren't we? And it just, obviously, me and you speaking a lot, that there just seems like there's so much to talk about with the club at the minute. And it would be nice to get, well, I would say a few in, but one will do at the minute, mate.
One will do. Yeah, one at a time.
One at a time.
But speaking of one at a time, Ben, we are now, 3 games into the season, and we'll certainly talk more about maybe some of the off the pitch topics, should we say. But on the pitch, 3 games played. Okay. In the league, no points. We scored 6 goals, conceded 7. But, what's your take been on just how the performances have been, style of play, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I think, look, there's been a lot made of Harris's play style, right? And would it evolve into this year? Would we change? And what I would say is I've certainly seen that. I think if you look at the first goal, you were obviously there Saturday, Chris. The first goal that we scored at Bristol City was actually a really good goal. We knocked the ball around well, and then with a little bit of individual brilliance at the end in terms of SA, great feet in the box and great finish that we've already seen a couple of times this season. I feel like that the football has evolved. Something that Harris mentioned in his post-match was obviously how he was very aware that the fans wanted sort of a bit more front-footed play, a bit more attacking play. And he alluded to it then costing us at the back. Now, just me, this is just my opinion. I don't think I agreed with that, because if you actually look at all the goals we conceded, it's pretty much all been individual error, mate. Or you can account to some sort of error in play at some point. The 3 that we obviously conceded against Watford, we won't go into a Jensen bashing, but look, that is what it is. It was a poor performance by him. And then again, Saturday, the 4 goals are all so avoidable, and he mentioned it, they're un-Millwall-like goals to concede. Certainly the first and the last goal, shocking pieces of defending. So, look, I think performances have actually been quite good. And I think I put it in, I think I sent it to you just to say, if someone had said to me we'd have scored 5 league goals and had 0 points, I would have just laughed at them. It wouldn't have made any sense to me, because we've been so good defensively over the last few years. So, yeah, performance-wise, I think they've been good. And I think we've been a bit unlucky to have 0 points on the board, to be honest, mate. What are your thoughts on the first 3 games? We'll chuck Pompey in there as well, because I think that was a good result away from home.
Yeah, I think similar, mate. I think overall there's definitely been an evolution in attacking style. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. I can't quite say, right, okay, well, this is what we're doing now that we didn't do last year, right? But we clearly are. The thing you touched up on there around Harris coming out and saying it might, this new attacking style we're playing might cost us defensively. The only thing I think he could be alluding to, which again, because I agree with you, these are just balls in the box. That's how bread and butter usually is, that actually it's the stopping of the cross coming in the box.
Yeah.
And because we are asking our midfielders, our wide players, maybe to push up more and support attacks more than normal, they're having to do a lot more running, and therefore, as they're coming back, they're slightly jaded. I don't know. And if you're playing 3 games in a week like Denor has, I'm not singling them out. I'm just trying to think of someone playing in the middle of the park or Honeyman. Maybe that's what he's alluding to. And if he had more bodies, then that cross for their 4th goal doesn't happen on Thursday. The 4th goal on Saturday, because we would have closed it down quicker or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's just looking at it as well, mate. Like, so I think you did it on your post-match show, right? So the first goal, you put the still up. I think we had 8 players behind the ball at that point.
Yeah,
and they've made 1 pass, and we've isolated our 2 centre halves who, again, we know aren't the most dynamic, shall we say, of centre halves.
First goal.
Yeah, but at the point of it breaking down in their half, yeah, look, so what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I think that's Honeyman in there. So say 6 and plus the tackler. So say 7 we've got in and around the ball. And they've made that one pass. What's Hutch giving Sinclair Armstrong there? About 10 yards? And
Denor. Like, I know Denor's filling in for left back because Joe Bryan, I think, had just taken a throw in. But in theory, you've got 2-on-1 because Sinclair Armstrong runs into the gap between Hutch and Denor, right?
Yeah, and if you look at that as an isolated defensive play, we're 3-on-2. So you'd like to think we should be able to deal with that. But yeah, look, we can't be in a position where one pass puts us under pressure or ultimately leads to them scoring. And then if you look at the fourth goal, like you say, mate, I don't know if we've put so much effort into getting back into the game. So I fully appreciate that. But look, again there, mate, there's no one within 5 yards of that cross coming in. We've got 2 against 1 in the left back position. Why? We just got to be closer. We got to be better at defending that. And even then, when the ball actually gets to the box, you look at the position there, and you would think we're in a really good place to probably defend that. I know the event. I think is Scott Twine there that's on the shoulder or on the edge of the box.
He's on the edge of the box, yeah. But
the
difference is, mate. Look at their 2 players in the box. They're moving.
Yeah.
Ours are static. That's the difference.
It's a total lapse of concentration, right? Because if we track that, right, if we track Scott Twine there, he's not going to get the free header that he gets. Coops has to go with his man when he makes that run across him. So that gap's naturally going to open up. But it's just bad defending all around, mate. As I say, those 2 goals, and as we said, that the first game against Watford, you can't odds your keeper having a howler ultimately. So, yeah, it's a concerning trait for me because we go back to the Joe Edwards era and it was a lot made about his post-match interviews where he kept saying individual mistakes. And we just seem to have carried it on somewhat.
Well, I mean, we've carried it on, mate, because it's the same group of players.
Yeah.
It's the same group. And a couple of observations that I called upon in my post-match, but I'll just sort of restate them here. So we had the same 10 outfield players as last season. They're all here. That's the first statement. The second one is, factually, we had the oldest first team 11 in the league so far this season, and we have the second smallest squad on paper. We have, I don't know if you know this as well, right? And I don't know this will go down with you because I know you're a big fan of his, but Tom Bradshaw scored a penalty on Saturday, and that was his first goal this calendar year.
Yeah.
We had 2 centre-backs. Last stat, Ben, sorry.
Go on, mate,
2 centre-backs, right, that they didn't start the game, but they were in the squad when we beat Bristol Rovers 7.5 years ago in 2017 to get into the playoffs to go up. I mean,
yeah,
the squad's just not evolving.
That's the key word, and that's the key thing here, mate. It's the evolution of players, and something that I want to touch upon in a little bit is around our loyalty to these certain players. And do other clubs seem to have that? I don't know, because we don't probably keep an eye on other teams' squads probably as closely or obviously as we do our own, right? But it's the evolution, mate, and that's the issue that I have. And we don't seem to be going through the right cycles as a squad. The age of the team concerns me a lot. As you said, we got the oldest team to play on Saturday. You're not going to find any other teams in the league that would have an average age like us. They're always bringing in or trying to bed in younger players. I know you can say that we are with SA and Amaku being around the squad and Alfie Massey, etc. But it's more regular, right? We don't seem to be able to move on in a cycle. The Bradders piece, look, we won't go into why I love him, but he gives 110% every week, right? But he's not going to be your 15, 20 goal championship goal scorer. He's a good squad championship forward to have when you're playing 3 games a week. You know what you're going to get from Bradders, right? That's the sort of player that he is now. He's not your lead the line championship first goal scorer, first sort of name at centre forward, if you want. And then the third piece, mate, What was it again? What was the third point?
I think it was the Cooper and Hutch.
Oh, yeah. And again, there, I mean, I don't think it was Coops' finest game in a Millwall shirt Saturday. No. But then there's he hasn't played any football. Yeah, look, I love Hutch. So again, I don't want to get sort of on his back too much, but it's the evolution, right? Should we have re-signed him? There's an argument about that. I get it's probably as much as an off-the-field signing as it is a squad depth signing. But yeah, the key word here, and it's probably one I want to take forward, is evolution. We aren't evolving, it seems like to me.
No, and we are going to go through our last 5 seasons of transfers, because I think what that highlights is there has been some good business done. I think it would be unjust to say there hasn't, but it's been good business for here and now.
I was about to say, not enough good business, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what? Let's just do it now, because it can lead us nicely into... So just going to flick up on screen. For those of you listening on a podcast, we'll read out some of the main names. But starting with this one. So this was 2021 season. So most noticeable signings here was obviously Troy Parrott and Ken Zahor, 2 loan signings that, being kind, did not work out. Then we had Scott Malone and Mason Bennett, which, I think they were okay signings, but at the time we signed Scott Malone, he was 29. Mason Bennett was injury struck. And then we signed 2 central defensive midfielders, Kifton Bell at 30, and then George Evans, 26 years old, who never really found his groove with us. So, Ben, out of how many of those signings would you say were successful?
I'm going to say 2 there. I think Malone did well for large parts for us. And I really like Mason Bennett. Again, he was just so unlucky with injuries, mate. But at the time, it plugged the gap that we needed in terms of an attacking player, could play multiple positions. When he was fit, he had a decent amount of pace. But yeah, you're looking at those and saying 2. Troy Parrott obviously didn't. Zahor, less said about that one, the better. And you could argue
his loan as well, which just cracks me.
I know, mate. I know. So yeah, I'll go 2 out of that bunch. You could say just 1 with Mason Bennett, but yeah, I thought Mace put in a good shift for us and was just really unlucky with injuries, to be fair, mate.
Yeah, I would agree with the 2. The one thing I do want to sort of pull out there as well on that recruitment is it's not very adventurous, is it? It's very, Gary Rowett going back to his former club. We used to joke about this, right?
Yeah,
so in terms of, we're going back here kind of, 4 years, but it doesn't look like we were casting the net particularly wide. Let's call it that. Let's move on to the next season. So this is the 21-22 season. So we had the return of George Saville coming back to the club. Don't know if I read into that number there in terms of what we paid for him, but nonetheless, obviously Scott Malone rejoined the club on a permanent basis. We signed George Long as initially our backup goalkeeper. Ollie Burke on loan. That was the first time we signed Ollie Burke. Benica Phobie on loan. Luke Freeman on loan, who, what did he end up playing? 1 or 2 games? Not many at all.
Not many.
Danny Ballard, which definitely was a successful loan for us as a centre-back. And then Shea Ojo. I think that is better recruitment than the season before. What's your view, Ben? How many of them would you say were successful? But again, looking at that, it's all loans.
That's my point, mate. I know a few of them went on to sign after their loan spells, right? But there's no future proof in there. It's very much a win now strategy, and it's very much a get people in for now. And look, you can argue the club might have been in a different financial position, etc. There's a load of factors that go in around that. But again, the reoccurring theme here as we go through the rest of these is there's no future proofing. There's no strategy. It doesn't seem like, apart from plug that gap and plug it now by getting X amount of loan players in.
Yeah, and you could make an argument, if we'd have had more success with this method, that signing someone like Danny Ballard with a view to then signing them permanently is that future proofing, but that only future proofs you if you end up bloody signing them.
If you sign them,
9 times out of 10 we don't. So there's that season. So again, better. I mean, let's just say so. Sav, I think we can say is successful. I think we can say Ballard is successful. Do you count Malone? Because in theory you've counted him before. Probably not. Benick, I don't know. Maybe as a loan signing, but signing him permanently was a mistake, which we'll come on to next, right? So the next season, so the 22-23 season, obviously worthwhile mentioning that this was the season that Jed Wallace left the club as well. So that's obviously a big shoes that we need to fill. So we did that by signing Zian Fleming, who, by all accounts that I have heard and read, that was very much a Gary Rowett signing in the sense that he had courted him personally as opposed to the club. Again, don't know if that's true, but I've read a lot of accounts that suggest that that is the case. So Zian Fleming, good signing. We'll come on to whether he should have been sold earlier in a moment, Ben. Vogel Sammer, Connell Truman as a backup goalkeeper, Callum Stiles on loan, the return of Ollie Burke on loan, Charlie Cresswell and James Shackleton on loan from Leeds. Benik Afobe joined us permanently. And then we also signed Duncan Watmore, George Honeyman, and Idemo Imaku. How would you rate that window?
I'd say that's a good window for us in terms of you've seen someone come in the door with upsell potential in terms of Zian. You could say a sort of it is a Jed replacement, right, to try and get his goals and assists. I'd say naturally the calibre and skill level of those players, we've gone up a level there. Your Creswells, Shackleton didn't get a chance with us, but I like him as a player. Your Callum Stiles, good footballers. So, and then you look at sort of two players that are still here now and mainstays in the squad in terms of Honeyman and Watmore. So I would say that's a good window. But again, there's no future proof in there, right? Again, it seems the loan players are there to come and make an effect now, which is fine if you make other additions around that, I guess. But I would say that's one of our better windows in recent seasons, mate.
Agree. And if you look at the whole angle we're coming at here, the future proofing. So Zian Fleming, I think signing him at 23, you could say that is. Callum Stiles, I think the aim for the club was to bring him in permanently eventually. And at 22, good age. I've got to be honest, when we signed him, I actually couldn't believe we had, because he's a player that I admired from afar for a long time. Obviously, his career's taken a slightly different trajectory since. Cresswell, yes, okay, we never ended up signing him, but that was probably down to the fact that, Leeds had given him a bumper contract when he went back and there was just no way. But again, him and Shackleton, young ages, I think 27-year-old George Honeyman isn't bad business. I think he's proven to be a very good squad player and at the moment, first team player, similar to Duncan Watmore. And then Imaku kind of is that starting point of bringing in future. And one thing I also want to point out here, I am 90% certain, I was just checking on my phone, that this transfer window here was Aldo's first transfer window when he come back to the club. So this was Alex Aldridge's first one. Before that, it was Harvey Bustle, I believe. So, we are.
I think that's a decent window, mate. I would say. Well, certainly out of the ones we've looked at so far, it's without doubt the best. Yeah,
agreed. Okay, so let's get on to last season's then. So the 23-24 season. So a bit of money spent, in fairness, really, especially when you take into consideration that we didn't sell Zian Fleming because it's well, known that we could have done and recouped a big fee. But we've signed Casper De Noor, which it says here for around £2 million, which would make him our highest ever transfer, which was never officially announced by the club. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. So Kevin Nisbet, 26-year-olds there. Obviously, Matty Sarkic. We signed 18-year-old Adam Mayer, 29-year-old Joe Bryan, which was a free transfer, but I can only believe it was a hefty signing on for your wages. Wes Harding, was a strange signing to me. No disrespect to Wes Harding, but I did think it was strange. I think we were crying out for a centre half in the August section. And then obviously in January, we then went on to sign Japhet Tanganga on loan, Alan Campbell, Michael Obafemi, and of course Brooks signed, I think, earlier on in the season, and Ryan Longman. So again, what's your thoughts on that window?
I would say on paper, mate, without sort of now knowing where some of those players are at in terms of the squad, you would say progression, right? You're now starting to sign players that you can see, if they perform well for us, do have a bit of sell-on value, and actually are valuable assets to the club. The loan signings, again, at the time, Obafemi, great addition, good player in the league. Norton Cuffy, an exciting winger, didn't know too much about him, but you look at a young player from Arsenal and you think, yeah, okay, that works. Longman at the time, again, we didn't really know a huge amount about, right? In terms of we just knew he wasn't getting a lot of game time at Hull. Campbell, even at the time, was looking at him, and there was only positive things that were said about him, right? And it seemed like a really astute piece of business. And Tanganga, right? So yeah, I would say progression, mate, on paper, but as it's turned out, I'm not going to say money squandered because that would be harsh, but yeah, it doesn't look like the best money spent, I would say now.
Yeah, I think Denor, I think the jury's still out for me. I think he's shown glimpses of being a £2-3 million central midfielder at times, and then at other times, like Saturday, I think he goes missing a bit. If I'm being honest, and I think if he can find that consistency, he's worthy of the fee we pay for him.
One thing on Casper, Chris. So, do you think? And this is how I kind of gauge all signings, really. Do you think he gets in, or how many teams do you think he gets in centre midfield for in the league? How many other teams outside of ours?
That's a difficult question because I think, based on the way I see him play for us, not many in the top half, for sure. But
do you think if he's in a better side, you'll see a better Casper Denor type player?
I do. And I wouldn't say that for many of our players, believe me. But I think Casper, our central midfielders in the team we're playing at the minute, our football's evolved, right? And I think the second halves, you've seen that evolution in style of play. We're using the channels really well. I said earlier, I didn't know what we were doing. Maybe that's what we're doing. But in the first half, at times, we are still long diagonals to Bradshaw. Now, that might be different if we have a more target man style centre forward. But the way we're doing it at the moment, it's like we know Bradshaw's not going to win the header. So then the two central midfielders' jobs is to pick up the second balls. So the ball's just going over Casper's head. I think if you put him in a more ball playing team, I think he could be a better player than he's showing. But I don't know. That's my view on him.
Yep.
So I think in here there is a little bit of bad luck as well.
Absolutely.
So obviously Matty, God rest his soul, I think would have gone on to be a very worthy £1.23 million goalkeeper. Adam May has been injured. I would imagine he would have been in and around the first team squad right now, probably coming on.
He's one, Chris, that excites me. Put up great numbers for Morecambe, and again, I hope the injury just hasn't come at a bad time for him in his Millwall career, in the sense of, obviously he was out for the back end of last year. We went on a great run, and just Harris hasn't seen enough of him. So when he is fit, can he force his way into Harris's thoughts, or what does he have to do to get in the side? So I just hope that injury hasn't come at a bad time for him, and I fear it may have.
Agree. And the way I see it is, we either make some we'll come on to our current window in a moment. We either make some signings, and therefore it might be harder for Mayer to get in because there arguably be more players ahead of him, or we don't, and then we're relying on these kids to come out and save us, basically. But I also just carrying on with the luck as well. Alan Campbell on paper, you could have not got a more Millwall type central midfielder, and for whatever reason, it just did not work. Ryan Longman, I think, was a decent signing. I think we're probably all scratching our heads as to why he hasn't signed for us permanently. I know he's injured now. And then Brooke Norton-Cuffy, I firmly believe if we hadn't have had a managerial change, we would have signed him permanently, because Harris doesn't play a back five and he never featured. So he was never going to come here, but he went to Genoa for €2 million, which we could have afforded. So that's why I think there's some bad luck in this. And look, I'm not going to come on here and say that I think Alex Aldridge is amazing and he's done this fantastic job and all this kind of thing. But in fairness, he gets a lot of bashing. And if I look at the 2 windows or two seasons he had, I would say they're better than the 2 seasons previous. And now segue in.
Without question.
I don't think you can argue it, right? So I love the fact transfer marks have not put Sean Hutchinson here. I love that, because they're seeing it for what it is.
They know. Well, mate, you might have seen my tweets at the time, but I was quite vocal about the fact that we had announced that as a new signing. But anyway.
I do recall them, Ben. So we've signed two goalkeepers, which, look,
we had to.
We had no choice. Otherwise, we'd been playing Connell Truman. Javid Tanganga, fantastic bit of business. I think everyone was delighted with that. And I think that's what sparked an excitement. And then you sign League Two's top goal scorer, which, again, on the surface, isn't bad. It's just not enough, though, Ben, is it?
No. And if we kind of let's take the keepers out of it. Well, actually, no, that's not. If you look at who we have signed, we've signed the League One Golden Glove winner, or whatever it's called, but the keeper that played the best in League One last year. So again, you on paper you go, that's a good signing. It doesn't seem like it's a huge amount of money as well. Obviously, we don't know exact figures, but it seems like a good signing. Tanganga, again, we don't need to go into that. I was amazed that we got him, but we know the player that we've got there. And
good age then as well, 25.
Yeah, great age, and sound like Soccer AM there.
Too old then,
mate. What a show! Yeah, but the thing, this is again we're talking about evolution, right? But it's also buying players that have a market value or a place in the side that if they keep performing well and perform to a decent standard, another club's going to be interested in them. And that's the key here. We're not going to keep Tanganga forever. We know that. If he has another season like he did last year and another club come in for him and offered us decent money, we've signed him on a free, right? I'm assuming there's going to be a hefty sign-on fee, his wages, etc. But we're in a position where we're going to make money on the player. And they're the sorts of players that we need to be trying to target. Now, I know a Japhet Tanganga doesn't come available all the time. But yeah, great age, resale value, and can affect the team at the minute. So perfect. Langstaff, again, very excited about it. It's been well documented how well he's done in the National League and obviously last year in League Two. So yeah, again on paper, mate, a great starting point and a great place to look at the rest of the squad and say, okay, well that's a bit of a core there. You've got your centre forward, you've got centre half, and your goalkeeper ticked off, and all decent signings. It's now what's happened since then, or what hasn't, that's been the concerning piece.
4 weeks, Ben. It's been 4 weeks since we signed our last player, which was the goalkeeper Roberts, who had been training with us for some time. What's going wrong?
Well, I think the biggest concern that I have, Chris, is it doesn't seem like we're aligned. Harris, again, was very vocal after the game Saturday. He doesn't seem to know what's going on. And again, I know you could argue, well, he's the head coach now, and that part of that part of football's changing. There aren't many managers that get involved with it. But you'd like to think that he would at least be able to come out and say to the fans after a 4-3 to defeat Saturday and go, well, look, we need bodies, but we've got bodies coming in. or we're working really hard at imminent deals, whatever it might have been. The thing that concerns me is that Harris doesn't seem to know where we're at in terms of incomings. So for us as fans, we can only take that at face value, right? And say, okay, well, we're being told by the manager, we don't know. If we continue with the squad that we've got, it concerns me. The age of the squad, the amount of games that we're going to be playing in a week, the effort levels that are going to be required. Yeah, I'm worried. One thing to note, I'm puzzled the fact how we haven't got. We talk about loans there, but we haven't got any. We don't seem to be linked with anyone on a loan move.
No.
So yeah, that's been weird for me again, that we've gone through those transfers, and in previous windows we've always got players in on loan. So yeah, look, I know there's a lot that I've just kind of thrown out there, but my main concern is that we don't seem to be aligned. We might well be behind the scenes, but what we're being told, and that's all we can go on, is that yeah, it doesn't seem like we're close to getting anyone in at the moment.
No, I agree with you. I think it's like there's one thing what happens behind closed doors, but for the head coach, that's what he is, I think, by title, to come out and say that he doesn't know publicly where the next signing's coming from, or words to that effect, that is a concern, because that may be the case. But usually, if there's harmony at the club, that's something that you would just have, between you, and then you come out and you put on a front. And I think what Harris is saying is that he's sick and tired of putting on a front, and he wants action, and he wants it now.
And if you think about the players that we've got in as well, chaps, he was obviously very involved in Tanganga, and it was again well publicised that he'd been on the phone to him all summer and seeing where he was at. And then again, he mentioned about Langstaff and how he'd spoken to him about the club and how he progressed from non-league to Millwall, etc. So he'd spoken to Langstaff. So if you look at it from that point of view, if he's not speaking to players, then that tells me we're not speaking to players.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to speculate. All I can say is black and white. There is a recruitment department, and that purpose of that department is to recruit, right? And we aren't doing that, and it's been 4 weeks since our last signing. So ultimately, you have to look at them and try and understand what's going on behind the scenes there. And it's already started, Ben, hasn't it? On social media, people saying, "Oh, Harris out" and stuff like that, which to me is bonkers. I think first and foremost, if any man deserves a bit of time, not that I think we're even at that stage yet, but if any man deserves a bit of time, it's the man that has done so much for us, for a football club, over the God knows how long. That's the first point. And then the second point is, if the man had signed 3-4 players and the tactics were still shit, the football was shit, we weren't picking up points, then fine. And I think he would be the first person to be like, do you know what, I can't get a tune anymore. But I think that we have a manager who's incredibly dedicated to our football club. I think we have a group of players currently that are very dedicated to him and the football club. And I think you can see that with the effort levels. But they're just not good enough to sustain a 46-game season. 13 cup finals, where arguably you've got your next season's contract maybe running on it, right? Let's be honest. That's different to a 46-game season with an evolving championship, and you're another year older. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what's your view, Ben, on Harris? Are you looking at this? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, just touching on what you said there, mate. So the 13, my concern going into this season was, could Harris motivate that same squad, as you say, getting them up for 13 games and saying we've got 13 cup finals to keep us in the league is very different to a 46-game season. But I can categorically say from what I've seen over the 3 games, that has well and truly carried on into this year.
Yeah, agree.
This goes back to the full life cycle, what we're talking about, of aging players, squad not evolving, that has led to all the mistakes, or certainly the mistakes in the last game, I'll say, because the first game, again, you can't account for your keeper not having the best of games. But certainly the last game highlights our recruitment frailties and where we've gone wrong. And I think that's the whole point of this, right? It's the concern of, have we got the right players in to sustain a 46 game season? Have we got a squad to do it? And at the minute, we haven't. In terms of my view of Harris, look, we started unbelievably well. I think this, again, is very much a personal view. I don't think he'll be here this time next year. I think he will last the season. And I think he'll say, I've done my job. I've done what I've come in to do, and probably hand it over to someone else. But yeah, there's no question mark for me. If we'd have got beat 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, and the players didn't look like they were interested in playing for him, we've got absolutely hammered and weren't in games, probably be sitting here and have a different conversation, right? But it hasn't been that. It's been very unlucky against Watford. And again, individual mistakes have cost us against Bristol City, and a good away win against Pompey. So, yeah, I'm not questioning that at all. I think he's come out and there's been a cry for help, right? It's, look, we've got the players here. We're working with what we've got. We need some help to sustain this. Question I just wanted to throw to you was, we've spoken about Bradshaw, right? And he mentioned Bradshaw in his post-match about saying, yeah, he's doing a great job. Again, this is only going to be speculation, us two talking, but why is Langstaff not playing? Are we the only club in the world that can sign a geezer that scored 10,000 goals in 3 seasons and him not get a kick for the first 3 games?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to speculate, but my take on it is a combination of not being fully match fit, because he did have when did we ever sign a player that can just start and hit the ground running? We always have to. Even Tanganga's going to be rusty.
Patch him up, yeah.
It's just, but anyway, so I think there's a combination of that. And then there's been some interesting quotes from Harris around like needing to teach him what it's like to be a Millwall Championship number 9, or some words to that effect.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because surely you know what you're signing. Does that mean that maybe it isn't a Harris signing? I don't know. But like, maybe there's an element of that. And the only person, I think Harris is big on trust, which is why he picked the players he did in the 13 games last season, right? And what we're possibly seeing unfold with Kevin Nisbet. So Harris is big on trust. And I think that at the moment, he trusts Tom Bradshaw to do the role that he wants. And in time, that may be Langstaff, but at the moment, I think it's down to that. That's my personal view. What do you think, mate?
But well, just on the evolution there then, but is that the right way to go? So we've signed a proven goal scorer, someone that we know can stick the ball in the back of the net. So we've been crying out for a long time, but we're sticking with tried and tested, because Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing and doing it over and over again, right, and expecting different results. So
I agree with you.
That's the only thing I would say to that is, yes, look, it's great that Bradders puts in 110% every week and he is what he is, but we've signed someone to improve us, score goals, and potentially play a different way. So at what point does Harris say, oh, I now trust him? Is it going to be Christmas? Is it going to be January? Like, when does he get to that point? Because you can't the only way he's going to earn trust is by going on the pitch and delivering what he wants him to deliver. If he doesn't play, he's not going to be able to do it. So, yeah, I get the point of it. Might not have been a Harris sign-in, but yeah, that's the sort of thing that concerns me. Right? Are we then signing players that aren't fit for what Harris wants to play? Is the playing style, the management, and the recruitment team aligned in what our strategies are as a club? And I think that's the point of this whole conversation between us, right? Is it's a bit confusing, it seems to me, at the minute. And again, that's just my opinion.
No, mate, I agree. And I think that there could even be an element of, listen, Harris has come out and not named a full bench. He's come out and put 2 goalkeepers on a bench. Maybe he's saying, I don't think Langstaff's up to it just yet. You need to go and buy me another striker. And maybe, again, that's another... I'll chuck this one at you then, Chris. So if we do that, are we effectively saying that we're going to use this person as an example because we've been linked with him, right? Say it's Coburn from Borough. We sign him. I'm assuming then he's going to become number 1. The way it is at the minute, Bradders is going to be number 2. And we're then saying that Langstaff's going to be number 3 in the pecking order.
having scored 100 goals in 3 seasons or whatever it is. Is that effectively what we're saying, or what we think will happen?
I mean, I'll be honest. If Coburn or someone of that ilk comes in, I would love to see us evolve and play 2 up
Change
top.
style. Yeah,
I really would, because I think that would suit us, particularly at home. I think that would suit us. So I don't know, mate. I don't know, but I think what is clear, and to round this show up, I think is that just not really sure on what the strategy is. When is the last time? Let's take Alex Mitchell out of it because he hasn't really played for us. When is the last time we sold a player for a fee? When is the last time that a player left the club, other than Jed Wallace, and signed for either a club at the same kind of level or went
bigger.
upwards?
Yeah,
they don't. They go to League One clubs. All of our players, Bradshaw and Harding both been linked with moves. Surprise, surprise, with League One. Like, our players are.
They're not trending up, are they? They're players that are. I don't want to say at the top of that peak, but they're on the second half of their careers. Let's say that. But
which is because it's a small aging squad, and it comes back to the full circle to we haven't been solving for the longer term. We haven't been evolving. We've been solving for the here and now, and that is what's got us into this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think whatever happens, the club, I feel like, need to figure that out. And that's going to be really difficult, right? Because you're probably going to have a change in management with Harris. Again, just my opinion, at the end of the season. So is that going to be another then new playing style? The manager going to want to be more involved in signings? So yeah, the strategy for me needs to be quite clear that we need to bring that average age of the squad down. You see it with all the other clubs. You've done a piece on it earlier on in the season, Chris, as well, about other teams' signings and their average age, right? So yeah, that's one thing that needs to be addressed. What about players that we need in, mate? Where would you be looking?
God, I was
not necessarily names, but positions.
Yeah. I was on BBC London last night, and they asked me this question, Ben, and I started off, and then I realised I'd listed after
the whole team,
after positions in the thing. But I think it's ironic because if you look at the results, you automatically go to defence, and I do think we need depth in defence. I think we could do with another centre back, and I'm still not sure on Joe Bryan. So in an ideal world, I'd sign another centre-back and I'd sign a left-back in an ideal world. I think we need another central midfielder because I think the system we asked our players to play, having 2 fit central midfielders with one of them aging, is not good enough. And then I do think over the course of a season, we are going to need more attacking reinforcements. We certainly need another number 9, and I think we could do with another forward. So that's 5 positions. Realistically, I think they've talked about getting 3 in. And I think they have to. Honestly, I think Harris's position will become untenable if they do not bring in at least 3 players for him. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, just from his comments, mate, he's kind of alluded to that, right? He's spoken about how difficult it's been with the squad that we've got, and the lads are putting in a great shift, etc. But we need reinforcements. I've said the numbers that I've banded about are just unrealistic, but that's just me in an ideal world. I think we need at least 5, maybe 6. If we get 3, I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed if we get 3 in. I'm kind of taking Dan Kelly out of that because, he's one for the future, right? And Harris has said that today in his interview. He's not one for now. He's one for the next coming months and years, right? So, I'm not putting him in that. But yeah, we need at least 3 players that can come in and affect that starting 11.
So if I said to you right now, we was to sign, I'm literally going to just use players we've been linked to. So I don't know whether there's anything in any of these. But if I said to you, we're going to go out and we're going to sign Coburn, we're going to sign Malumbi.
Permanently? Because that changes it, I think, as well.
Good point. All right, let's go with yes. All 3 of these that I'm about to name are going to be permanent signings. We're going to sign Coburn, we're going to sign Malumbi, and we're going to sign a winger. Let's just go with Aziz because we were linked with him a few weeks back. We're going to sign all 3 of those permanently. That's it. And obviously the lad Kelly. what's your position then?
I would say they are all very positive signings with significant upsell and value if they perform well for us. So I would say they are good signings and will add much needed depth and evolution to the team that we don't currently have.
Agree. I'd agree with you. I think the challenge I would have as well, though, with that is that I think it's going to cost a lot of money to get those players in, plus Tanganga, plus Langstaff, and we haven't recouped any. And I think as a club, you're then looking at, again, the longevity in the long term and what do we do here? But it's a good job, mate, that we can just talk about it and we don't actually have to go and do this stuff. So, but that's
Absolutely.
45 minutes and it's flown by, Ben.
It has, mate.
Really good to talk to you. Your knowledge on all things football, the Championship is second to none. So thank you, Ben, for coming on. Any final thoughts from yourself before we close out, mate?
Thanks very much for having me, mate. You're doing unbelievable things, not only on the channel, but obviously for charity. So keep doing what you're doing, mate. Loving the content. And yeah, anytime you want us on, just give me a shout. You know where I am. So yeah, really enjoyed having a chat, mate.
Top man. Thank you, Ben. I will take you up on that. And yeah, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. It really does help us. And hopefully this very optimistic.
Hopefully it's not been too depressing for you.
is going to fill part of your week anyway. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.